Talking F1 with Steve, Neil and the Gov.
Good evening. Welcome to Talking F1, weekly podcast with all your F1 news and updates. We are, of course, available on all good podcast platforms. You can find us on there at Talking F1. We're on Twitter at Talking F1 Fans. Head over, give us a follow, stay up to date. Need to keep that up to date more, to be fair. I am Steve. With me, as always, is Neil. How are you, Neil?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Good. Have you had a good week?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
What about you?
Yeah, can't complain. I was back to work. Obviously, I was off last week. So, yeah, back to work for this week. And I'm off again next week. So, not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since the last F1 race. Obviously, we've had FP1 and FP2 today as well. Aston Martin doesn't look like Bahrain was a one-off, does it, so far?
No, which is a good thing.
I think the obvious thing was Sebastian Vettel, oh dear, Fernando Alonso being ahead of Lance Stroll again, but more obviously, Red Bull look virtually untouchable, I would say. I don't know what else to
Got it in
expect.
cruise control.
Yeah, I don't know what else to expect from them at this point in time. But yeah, Aston Martin were looking rather tasty, certainly in the hands of Fernando. He was, third in the first practice and second in FP2, which is the more representative of the two sessions. Sort of with race conditions and that sort of thing. So, good start.
Perez being Perez.
Perez being Perez, turning up and doing what Perez does. Slipping under the radar, still quick, but not quite on the pace of his teammate. So, looking forward to tomorrow. Who do you think is going to be on pole? Is it going to be Verstappen?
No. Yeah, of course it is.
I think there's no other way, is there?
No. Not unless he puts it in a wall or anything along those lines.
Well, he's done it before at Saudi, isn't he? 2021.
Yeah. I did hear they had moved some of the barriers and things, so whether they're out the way of him now, so that won't happen.
Yeah, they've moved a few of the turns, the safety barriers at some turns back. I think just some safety concerns there after the past couple of races to improve visibility and obviously push them back and get more runoff as well. Not much more runoff, but a little something. I think there's obviously quite the major change around the circuit for that. So hopefully that's improved the drivers' sort of view and improved the overall safety of the circuit. Apart from that, it was pretty much business as usual, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely. I must admit I haven't seen all of the practice, so yeah.
No, I've sort of kept my eye on it over the course of the day at work, working hard still, of course, and sort of keeping up, sort of refreshing myself when I got home, and it seemed like it was a tricky session for Ferrari, or sessions for Ferrari, should I say?
Did you hear the news?
The news? I know that. Well, we said that obviously Leclerc's got a 10-place penalty.
Sainz has
more bad news.
had done the same as well, I think. It was put a new unit in, so yeah, they're both getting penalties.
Oh, for God's sake. If there's any Ferrari fans in the chat, I feel so sorry for you. It's race 2. Race 2, and they're both getting penalties.
It's going to be a long season.
It really is. Who'd have thought, this time last year they were getting 1-2 finishes and people were tipping them for championship favourites, and now they struggled in both sessions. They were sort of propping up the top 10 in FP1 and FP2. Now Charles got his engine penalty, and so's Carlos. Can it get much worse?
You'd hope not. To be fair, if they stay in remote contention, that's one positive, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be another painful weekend for Ferrari fans. Potentially, it could be another painful weekend for that team in orange as well.
Yeah, we'll glaze over that bit.
I didn't want to mention it. Try not to be smug.
How Williams doing? I didn't see where they were.
They weren't too bad. Alex Albon was in the top 10 in FP1. Sargent, I think, was towards the back. I'm just going to check where they finished in FP2 because I'm not too sure off the top of my head. But they were looking solid. They were looking pretty good. That car seems to be quite slippery and quite nifty in a straight line. So it's just a sort of circuit that could play into their hands.
Should work out okay, yeah.
Okay, not as positive FP2. Alex Albon P14, Logan Sargent P18. but I suppose
You're still in and around
in and around that.
the last point. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of where I would expect the team to be, really. Plus, you don't know, even with McLaren, you don't really know what sort of, what runs they were doing, whether they were focusing on more long run pace and heavy fuel loads like Ferrari, maybe. Yeah.
To be fair, with them, this concept has been written off, really. They've got some updates coming later in the season. Was it Baku we mentioned? So
yeah,
we'll just accept whatever they do that's near the points is a positive until the updates come. And then hopefully they can actually put a midfield challenge in.
I hope so. I really do, because I want to see a close fought midfield. I want to see teams like Williams, McLaren, and Alpha all up there fighting. But it remains to be seen. But in other news, positive news coming out of the Austrian Grand Prix. That's been extended to 2027, which
Excellent.
I'm happy with. I like Austria. It's a simple track, but it's an old school one, isn't it? It's undulating, it's up and down, and it feels like an old school circuit. You've got gravel right there. Make a mistake and you're off. I like it. It's a great circuit.
Did we lose it for a short bit?
Yeah, we lost it for about 10 years, I think. Because the last race there was the early noughties, and then it came back in, I want to say 2013, 2014.
Yeah, something like that. I thought it'd been away, and then it's been good to have it back.
Yeah, well, the Red Bull ring, so Red Bull's home. So yeah, it's great to see it back. It's a fun little circuit. It's really simple. It's not like a million corners and chicanes and hairpins. It's just a simple, like just over a minute a lap, and it's almost like just sort of like balls to the wall for an entire lap. It's brilliant. So really happy to see it on the calendar to 2027, and it always throws up some great races as well. It's not one of these circuits that sort of goes under the radar. You can have some absolute bangers there. Norris got his first podium there, and the race in was it 2016, I think, when Hamilton and Rosberg hit each other. Well, Rosberg didn't turn.
I still remember back in the day when after, is it considered second corner? After you go up the hill there, and someone came through backwards, basically, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I want to say it was Jordan. I remember that. Absolutely wiped out another car, didn't they?
Yeah, chaos.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
One of those memorable moments.
Yeah, but there was also a couple of other things that sort of stick out in my mind about that, with Hakkinen and Coulthard making contact at that corner as well, and I think Coulthard hitting Hakkinen and spinning his own teammate around. And the probably most famous one was when Rubens was told to move over to let Schumacher through, and the famous fallout from that, with Schumacher pushing Barrichello onto the top step of the podium and giving him the winner's trophy, but he didn't give him the points.
No, the booze.
Yeah, that wasn't popular, was it?
No. To be fair, there was a lot of that going on. They tried. Was that the one they tried to cross the line at the same time, or which?
No,
race was
I think that was Indianapolis. It's sort of like a protest, but I think Barrichello just got that one. But yeah, no, the Austrian one, it was let him pass for the championship, and Barrichello slowed right at the last second to let Schumacher go through, and they were not popular. That was controversial times. Evening, Mike. Welcome in. Don't apologise for being late. Happy to have you here. Metal Jace, do you see the moment Oscar Piastri had to slam on his brakes in FP2? No, I didn't see that. I didn't catch much of FP2 on TV. Saw some of FP1. What happened? Was it like you almost hit a car? Because that's not good. Bit of a brown seat in an orange car, I reckon. Oh dear. But yeah. Not an easy session for McLaren, was it? I think Lando did get up there a little bit in FP2. I think he was just outside the top 10. But for what it looked like, Piastri was struggling. Again, only saw FP1, but looking at the results, again, you don't know what fuel runs or anything they're loading, but
I hope Piastri will get a little bit closer to where Lando's been qualifying and that sort of thing. It's early days, I guess we he had a season out. He might be a little bit rusty as such, needing to get comfortable with a car that's not the greatest.
Yeah, I don't want it to turn into another situation where people think that second seat is cursed, because everyone had the same opinion about the Red Bull seat with like Gasly and Ocon and Kvyat, Ricciardo, and now McLaren. You've got Ricciardo, who really struggled, and Norris did very well, and now, well, we've already had one race in this car, and Norris didn't do well, and neither did Piastri. So I hope it's not another situation like that where you've got Norris getting all, picking up the points where he needs to, and Piastri doing a Ricciardo and struggling around. I hope they can both be competitive and sort of take the team into the fight.
Yeah, alas, I think we have to wait until Baku, and then I think we can start to do a little bit of judging. Yeah,
it is going to be really close. I reckon once teams start to bring in upgrades, it is going to be really close, because obviously you've only 1 or 2 races in, and it's all over the place. So you've got teams that have reliability issues in the first race, teams that might not find themselves up there all the time. So the likes of Williams, they're not going to be up there in the points every race. But I hope they would, but they're not. And when you get all these teams that start bringing in upgrades, I want it to really close the field up, So you've got teams like Williams, McLaren, Alfa Romeo, Alfa Tauri, Haas fighting for these points. Because I think Aston are pretty much secured as being up there, certainly for the time being. Especially if anything today's anything to go by. Fernando doing Fernando things.
I hope so. It's exciting.
It is, and it just give him a decent car and look what he can do with it. It's so good to see Fernando smiling, like a genuine smile again, and actually enjoying his driving and enjoying his racing. Because his time at Alpine wasn't great, was it? What, 1 podium, I think, and then a whole heap of reliability problems.
Yeah, he put in some good performances that in the end just didn't give results.
Yeah, I think if you look at the sort of the course, or the people on the grid, and going back years as well, there's certain drivers on that grid who can get the best out of terrible cars, or certainly more uncompetitive cars, and there's Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. Like how Lewis got wins in that 09 McLaren was terrible. And how Fernando managed to put that McLaren Honda, when it finished, where he did, again, was just incredible. And again, what he did with that 2012 Ferrari, which was an absolute dog for a majority of the season. Felipe Massa really struggled in it. And Fernando's getting wins and he's fighting Vettel for a championship. It's just, what a guy. To quote Red Dwarf, what a guy. But
I didn't see where Haas positioned. Are they doing slightly better this weekend?
Hulkenberg was, what I last checked, Hulkenberg was quite, he was nestled into the top 10 quite nicely. K-Mag, I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's a track that could benefit Haas, certainly that Ferrari engine in the back, so if they have found that extra power. It would be nice to see Haas fighting, certainly Hulkenberg. I'm quite a big fan of Hulkenberg. It'd be nice to see him getting some solid points. But that's the thing, there's a lot of teams that could go under the radar here because other ones are going to stand out. Someone's going to be paying attention to the likes of, Aston Martin. And then other teams like Haas, could potentially slip out, and Alpine possibly could potentially slip under the radar. So
yeah, we didn't mention, I don't believe we mentioned Hulkenberg too much on our first race chat. My cautious thoughts on how he would perform. It's good that he outperformed where I thought he'd be.
He did better in qualifying, stuck it in the top 10, out-qualified K-Mag, but then he broke his front wing on the first lap, which is very Haas, and just fell down.
I think strategy wasn't the best for him either.
No.
I think they left him out and others performed better.
So I'd like to see him, fighting points again. I think when he gets back up to speed, he'll be okay because it's his first race for a while, for almost a year. Because I know he deputised for Seb the first couple last year when the Aston Martin was a complete dog of a car. What a difference 12 months make. See, 12 months ago, Aston Martin were absolutely terrible, and Ferrari were getting 1-2s, and now completely flips. Aston Martin, not 1-2s, but they're getting a podium, and Ferrari don't look like troubling a podium right now. What a difference a year makes.
Do you think Lance will be closer to Fernando this time?
I think he will.
I haven't seen how much he's still struggling.
Well, he was 4th in FP2, I think. He was up there in FP2, certainly. And, well, no, I think in Alpine was up in 4th, actually. No, Stroll, I think was about 7th, sorry, in FP2. He certainly seems more on the pace. Obviously, his wrists have had a bit more time to heal up, and he's probably feeling sort of more like himself. So I think he'll be closer. I think Fernando is still going to absolutely annihilate him over the course of the season, but yeah, he'll get closer until there comes a point where Lawrence Stroll says, right, please stop beating my son because you're making him look bad. And then Fernando's going to have to slow down. So, right, if you want to drive for us next year, then stop beating Lance.
Yeah, when he suddenly does terribly, you'll know what's happened.
Yeah, that's it. He's spoken to Lawrence. Mike, I did say before the first race on the show that you were praying that Aston Martin and Fernando would be the dark horses, and yeah, they certainly seem to be right now. You know, I think there's always that. Yeah, the FP1 and FP2, the practice sessions at the first race. You think, oh yeah, but it's only the first practice sessions, and then after the first race, you think, yeah, but it was only the first race. And Bahrain is a bit of an anomaly when it comes to sort of circuit type. And then they show up again at Saudi, and he is troubling the top three, again. Maybe it's not just a one-off. Maybe Aston Martin could genuinely challenge over the course of the season. There's a lot of money in that team to invest and a solid foundation to build on.
They've got a good deal of wind tunnel time as well. So
because should be able to low down.
Should be able to improve still.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think it's going to be a cracking battle over the course of the season. So I think you'd be foolish to say this championship is anyone else's bar Red Bull. But the fight for second, third, fourth, if Ferrari can get themselves into it, if Mercedes can up their game, if Alpine can improve, if Aston Martin can keep it up, it's going to be awesome.
Which of the two Alpines were up there, did you say, in FP2?
Let me have a little look-see. I should have had this prepared. It's not professional here. Here we go. So, breakdown of the results. So, Max Verstappen was quickest, then it was Fernando, Sergio Perez. Ocon was 4th in the Alpine, and Gasly was 6th. So, a solid result, actually, from both Alpines.
Yep.
George Russell up in 5th.
Definitely looking for a stronger weekend than last.
Oh, for sure. Stroll was 7th. Hülkenberg up in 8th. So, solid result from him. And then Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, 9th and 10th. Lewis Hamilton, 11th. And bottom of the pile, Valtteri Bottas. Oscar Piastri, 19th. Oh, dear. So, maybe if you're a McLaren
glaze
fan,
over that one.
Yeah, glaze over it. And don't pay too much attention to what's going on. Join Williams instead. It's great fun. Honestly, ups and downs, mostly downs. But never a dull moment, unless you're watching Latifi. But there we go. So the absolute GOAT. I still want to know who Latifi in the wall is on our F1 fantasy, because I still don't know who it is, and I really want to know. If you're in the chat, let us know. It's really driving me crazy. Have you made any changes to your F1 fantasy actually ahead of the?
No, of course I haven't. No, I haven't done any of the extra things you can do. You know what I'm like with it. Yeah, I've set it up now. That's it.
Yeah, lock it in, leave it, don't care. Red Bull fall off a cliff, tough.
I'm not sure that's quite the case.
No, I think they're pretty much nailed on. But no, I've been the same. I'm tempted to change Charles Leclerc because, engine penalties. But no, I'm going to keep him. I've got faith in my boy.
Unless Hülkenberg completely spends the whole season outperforming, then I might have to put him in. Oh, yeah.
Give him a race or two. Hülkenberg will be up there on the podium. Guaranteed. Maybe. Possibly. But there we go. But what have we got in other news? Oh, there's a couple of changes I've heard over today. Lewis Hamilton has split with his long-term trainer, Angela. Can't remember her last name. They've worked together for the best part of 10 years. I think about sort of 7 or 8 years. And she's, I don't know if she's staying at Mercedes or moving on to pastures new, but those two have split. They've become a bit of a duo, seeing them around the paddock together. She's been carrying around his stuff or carrying his dog as he's been scootering around the paddock. So, Don't know who he's going to get or who initiated that change, but that's a bit of a
Yeah, it seems a
personnel update.
strange one, as they've been it's been a good partnership that's sort of worked.
Yeah, so it sort of come out of the blue, really. But the best one today was that they've banned drivers from using bicycles on track walks. Explain that one. Why?
It's not a walk if they're biking it.
But if you're actually doing a track walk, somewhere like Spa, that's going to take hours.
Are you allowed to scooter? Is it just
No,
bikes?
apparently no wheeled transport. From what I've read, no wheeled transport. So you've got to walk. And I can understand the logic. It's a track walk. You want to get every bit of information about the track. But it just seems a bit silly. Maybe this is Lance Stroll's fault because he fell off his bike. Right, we can't have any more F1 drivers on bicycles, so we're banning them. If you're going to use your bicycle, have stabilizers. You see Lance Stroll on a little pink bike with stabilizers or something, just around the circuit.
Little tassels on the handlebars.
Basket. That'd be great. No. Yeah, I can't quite understand the logic of that one, but Charles Leclerc has said that you probably won't see him on a track walk again. It just seems like a bit of a silly rule. I can't think of the reasoning behind it, to be honest, because a lot of drivers do use the bikes. So if they go cycling around the tracks, either whether it's just to keep themselves ticking over, I don't know, obviously get information about the track. But yeah, you're not going to see that anymore. It's odd.
Strange. Oh well. They consider it a good idea, so we'll
Yeah.
just go along with it.
Not going to question the FIA. I saw on Twitter a little while ago that apparently Lewis Hamilton's been summoned to the stewards or something as well for wearing jewellery.
Again.
For God's sake. Let the drivers just do what they've got to do. Let them be them. Right? No jewellery, no riding bikes. Ridiculous.
I think I saw Lewis and Martin doing one of their interviews from seasons past, and there was a video clip of Martin Brundle back when he used to race, and I think he had lots of jewellery on. And Lewis asked him if he raced with it all on. I can't remember what his answer was, but yeah, I couldn't believe how much he had.
But do you remember years gone by as well? Well, probably not remember, but if looking back to years gone by, like in the 70s, when the F1 drivers are coming in big rings and big necklaces and jewellery, and James Hunt would be smoking cigarettes and swinging from a bottle of beer or something, just covered in jewellery and all this sort of thing. No one cared. I know it's obviously different times, different generations, but a bit of individuality. I like individuality of the drivers. Don't make them all just sort of faceless PR machines, because obviously they had that rule about them not having free speech effectively as well. It seems like getting rid of the driver's individuality.
Kimi was a one-off.
Kimi was. I think we need more people like Kimi and Mark Webber. They actually said their mind. They spoke their mind. And I don't know. I like seeing drivers come out with weird statements and look how they want to look. It's only a matter of time before they say, right, no beards, and you've got to have short hair as well, and you've got to always be clean shaven because you might have to meet a sponsor. Just let them be them.
You can't have a funny hairstyle like Bottas.
Yeah, mullet and a mustache. That's cool. I'll tell you what, I'm really warming to Bottas again because he seems like he's got a bit of his old self back since leaving Mercedes, going to Alpha. He's got a bit of more sort of less corporate, I think, and more sort of fun-loving, and it seems like he's got more freedom. I don't know how you sort of view him.
To be honest, I think he has chilled out a little bit. I don't know. When he was at Williams, I felt he was trying to really be, top of his game. And then while he was at Mercedes, he slowly had that beaten out of him. But then now I almost get a little bit of that Kimi vibe from him, where he's just trying to enjoy his racing.
Yeah, I think that's it. He knows he's probably not going to be a world champion. I'd imagine he probably knows he's not going to be a world champion, unless Alpha do something very quickly.
I guess when Audi sort of jumps in, if
he's still there, unless Audi are going to want 2 German drivers. Schumacher.
Did they came out and said they weren't really interested in that, I believe.
Okay. Well, it'd be great to see Bottas in an Audi Works team, sort of like a de facto team leader. And
So I know there's been the whole Lando chat of where he's going to be, what his plans are. Whether he's just going to get, McLaren keeps saying, "Oh, it's our wind tunnel," and every other excuse they can find, and end up being, "Oh, we're now looking at this date for when we're going to be good." And yeah, when are they going to be good? And if Lando wants to hang around there, is Ferrari seat going to be, come up available? Because there was the whole talk of, Leclerc being a little bit disgruntled.
Well, this is what I was going to say. There's two incredibly talented drivers on that grid who are certainly being wasted right now by the limitations of what they're driving, and that is Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari and Lando in the McLaren. They're both still young guys, but every other team is going to be looking at them and thinking, yeah, we'd have them in our car if the opportunity arose, and if we had the car to lure them over. And McLaren have been struggling for years. They were on an upward trajectory, but they've sort of just petered out a little bit. And then Ferrari just being Ferrari. So, are the drivers going to get tired of it? I can't see Charles Leclerc winning a championship at Ferrari. It pains me to say it because I want to see it, but I can't see him winning a championship at Ferrari. It's going to be years before McLaren are back in contention. I'm starting to believe that Williams are going to get there first.
Yeah, Mercedes was mentioned as a place Lando could go to. But if they don't improve soon, is it really? I suppose in the short history they've done well, so you could potentially think they're going to turn it around.
Yeah,
because as they're struggling, it's obviously been mentioned. Lewis once said that he loved Ferrari, or the idea of racing for them. They keep now struggling there at Mercedes. It's only a matter of time, they're all believing. But
Lewis Hamilton,
I know there was an interview that basically was saying that Lewis and the team are, quite open to each other because everyone was trying to say that he's going to jump ship.
Yeah,
he has said that he's wanting to stay in the sport to get his 8th title, and
time.
Him and the team are transparent in what's going on. But Toto ended up saying that he is aware if the team doesn't improve, then it's inevitable that he'll have to try and get it somewhere else.
Yeah.
They know the score.
Well, talking to Lewis, a comment from Mike there. It's good to see Lewis finish back in front of George. To me, last year he was putting the team first. Yeah, Lewis did a lot of experimental things, didn't he, with setups and things that saw him get dumped out in Q1 at this track last year, and struggle for results compared to George, who was putting in the more consistent finishes. Obviously got the race win last year. LH is still the better driver by far. I think
I'm not sure. I believe in the first race we've had, Lewis held him up a little bit, and the team could have switched to drivers. Whether George would have suffered later on because Lewis was doing a bit of time management, but you never know. It's all ifs, buts. It's the first race. I can't say that he trounced him. It was a bit of a tough weekend for him and another eye-opener of a poor season. And
yes, it's going to be a very interesting battle to watch between those two this year. And obviously an interesting thing to see if anything happens with the dynamic as well between the two of them. Obviously, they're all very much like, we're in this together and we're fighting for the team. But, if George is consistently finishing ahead of Lewis or vice versa, that team will put more of their time and resource, as they always do historically, behind one of those drivers to help get them up as far as they can. If it's George, he's not going to want to take that because he sees himself as the future of that team. And Lewis isn't going to want to take that because he's after his 8th title. He wants, he's Lewis Hamilton. He's a 7-time champion. So it's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic this year.
Yeah, I believe that George will at some point outperform Lewis. I think
Hmm.
Lewis. It depends whether he can do a Fernando and just find something with age and just manage to just keep going.
Fernando is just, he's 42, isn't he? Like 41, 42, and he's just insane. The guy is, he's incredible. Mike Baker again. Lewis and Toto to both end up at Ferrari. Lewis possibly.
I'd
Can't
be
see Toto
surprised because he owns a bit of Mercedes.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I
is
can't
it
see
the
Toto.
Daimler Group, something like along those lines?
Something like that. Lewis, you never say never, I suppose. But he also said he'd go back. He wouldn't rule out a return to McLaren one day. That ain't gonna happen.
No.
Remember that after he left, he said, "Will you ever return?" He went, "Well, you never know what the future holds. If Mercedes had failed, then probably, but it didn't." Toto, no, I can't see it. I think he'll stay at Mercedes. I can't see him at any other team because obviously being a majority shareholder or stakeholder, whatever he is. But yeah,
does he still own a portion of Williams?
No, I don't think so anymore. No, I think he ended that when he either took over at Mercedes or a few years ago. But yeah, as Mike says, money talks. You never know. I think Toto's got a hell of a lot of money, and I think Mercedes would pay whatever Ferrari offered. I think Mercedes would pay and more because he's a good team leader.
I guess it just depends if the sway of a new beginning, or a last hurrah of trying to make Ferrari great again. The draw that got Schumacher there.
Yeah, and I suppose it's and Vettel as well. It's I don't know. You could I suppose reinvent yourself because I look at someone like Adrian Newey. He had endless championship success with Williams, and then moved to McLaren. He had championship success with McLaren, and then Red Bull. And you might find yourself in a position where you want a different challenge, or another team is offering you more money. Go back to Williams, please, Mr. Newey. That would be great. It might be the same. Yeah, just gradually work your way back again. So, the last championship winning cars for Williams were Newey's, which was 97. So that's painful. I was 4, but yeah, we'll see. It's going to be either way. This season is with the dynamic in Mercedes, and obviously what's going to happen with Ferrari. It is going to be an interesting season, and I can't wait for this race because Fernando looks genuinely fast again. And he was only 0.2 off Verstappen in FP2. That's awesome.
I'm quite surprised, to be honest. I know prior to the practice sessions, it was mentioned that Aston Martin's weakness was straight line speed. They've been good at drive out of corners. So, yeah, it's good to see considering Jeddah being quite a fast track.
Yeah, it's promising. So I hope it isn't all smoke and mirrors and it actually is genuine. But I think we've come to the end of our little half-hour sprint race. So thank you very, very much for watching. Thank you all for getting involved. Martin better be there ready to end this as well. If not, we're going to be sitting here awkwardly once I say goodnight. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for getting involved. Enjoy the race. So enjoy quali tomorrow and enjoy the race with a 1-2 for Red Bull. Absolutely on the cards with the Fernando third. Who do you think is going to be on the podium, Neil?
Let's go Max, Fernando, and is Leclerc going to jump in there somewhere? Is he going to have a good race after his penalties?
I don't know. I'm going to go third. I'm going to say Checo. I'm going to go Fernando Alonso second. And a Max Verstappen win. Funnily enough. Because it's just hard to look past anything other than that Red Bull. Certainly that particular Red Bull blowing the competition away. But you might be surprised. It might be a crazy race. We might have a hungry 2021 on our hands, but I doubt it. Anyway, thank you very, very much for watching, everybody. We shall see you next Wednesday, 7:15, obviously rounding up what happened at Sunday's Grand Prix. So we shall see you there. I have been Steve. Neil's gone, but he was there. He is. There was Neil. He was Neil, and he's Neil again. So thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Take care.